After Orion stood me up for our wedding registration for the 52nd time, I stopped blaming myself for what I might have done wrong, and stopped writing those long pleading messages begging him to show up next time. Instead, I opened our work group chat. Under the wedding photos his childhood sweetheart Mabel had posted of the two of them, I typed calmly, "Congratulations, may you last forever." The chat, which had been buzzing with colleagues betting on whether I'd throw a jealous fit this time, went silent instantly. In the next second the photos were deleted. Orion called me, his voice icy cold. "Mabel just sent them to the wrong group by accident. Do you really need to be so sarcastic? If you keep making a scene like this, how is she supposed to work at the hospital? Besides, it's just a birthday photo shoot. What's wrong with me helping Mabel fulfill her bride dream? It's just a picture, only a twisted mind would see something dirty in it. Delete your message and apologize to Mabel. I'll find time to register with you after I celebrate her birthday." Faced with his 52nd perfunctory promise, I agreed casually. By the time he came back my resignation would have been approved. And then I'd break up with him, never to see each other again. After I hung up, my fiancé Orion called over a dozen times but I didn't answer. Immediately after, notifications popped up on my phone. He'd unlinked our couple status on every app. I'd lost count of how many times he'd done this. Whenever he got angry he'd unlink our accounts to punish me. Every time before I'd swallowed my pride to apologize, coaxed him gently and begged him to relink them. But now I was truly tired. I didn't have the energy to coddle him anymore. As I was about to close the chat, Mabel posted on her social media. She attached a screenshot of the group chat and specifically tagged me. "Accidentally sent this to the wrong group earlier. I was just joking around with Orion. Didn't expect Sister Willow to take it seriously. I'll never dare joke like that again." The moment she posted it, Orion, who never used social media, liked it immediately. He commented, "Mabel, it's just a birthday photo shoot. Some people's minds are so filthy, twisted souls see dirt everywhere." The some people he was referring to was me. Soon colleagues saw the post. After learning what happened, they flocked to the comments to comfort Mabel. "Mabel, don't blame yourself. It's not your fault. Willow is just being petty and can't take a joke." Exactly. It's just a joke, why make such a big deal out of it? I found it absurd. Orion had rushed to defend Mabel in the comments, terrified that anyone might misunderstand her. But to me, his fiancé of 10 years, he always assumed the worst. Once he'd stood me up for our registration to take Mabel to the Ferris wheel. When I'd complained a little, he'd accused me of being paranoid and unreasonable. Now when I stayed calm and wished them well, he accused me of being sarcastic. It turned out when someone doesn't love you, everything you do is wrong. I smiled bitterly, turned off my phone screen and refused to look anymore. Coming back to my senses, a staff member at the Civil Affairs Bureau reminded me gently, "Ma'am, your number has expired. Would you like to get a new one and reschedule?" I shook my head, my voice soft. "No, thank you." With that, I tore up the number slip and threw it into the nearby trash can. I didn't want the expired number, and I didn't want the expired wedding date or the expired man either. Before today, I'd given Orion 52 chances to register our marriage. But every time we were about to meet, he'd call to say there was an emergency surgery at the hospital, blatantly standing me up. If I showed the slightest dissatisfaction, he'd use human life to guilt-trip me. "Willow Ling, how can you be so cold-hearted? Isn't a living person more important than a marriage certificate?" He always condemned me from a moral high ground. He was confident he'd hidden it well, but little did he know I'd known the truth all along. Every time he left me to be with Mabel, she'd send me private messages to provoke me. Photos of them watching the aurora in the Arctic, making a heart under the Eiffel Tower. Out of 10 years of affection, I'd given Orion chance after chance. But he'd trampled on my sincerity without a second thought. Now even the last shred of affection was gone. I thought our relationship was finally over. Pulling myself together, I left the Civil Affairs Bureau and drove to the hospital to finalize my resignation. I'd submitted my resignation letter half a month earlier, and Orion had signed it personally 2 days ago. He'd signed it without even reading it so quickly it surprised me. After all, Orion had always been guarded around me. He'd never told me his phone password, always turning away when unlocking it. But he trusted Mabel so much, he'd even shared hospital secrets with her. I'd thought Orion had finally let his guard down with me, until I saw Mabel standing at the door, perfectly made up. Then I realized he'd signed so quickly just to rush off on a date with her. If I wasn't mistaken, the necklace around Mabel's neck was the heart of the ocean, worth 10 million yuan. Orion was lavish with Mabel, spending 10 million on a necklace without a second thought. But with me he was extremely stingy. Not only no necklaces, I didn't even have new clothes. I was still wearing the same faded shirts and jeans. Once I'd mentioned wanting new clothes. Orion had refused, scolding me for being vain and wasting money, not appreciating how hard he worked. He told me to focus on my job instead. In the end, it turned out I just wasn't worth him spending money on. At the hospital, I went to HR to process my resignation. With Orion's signature on the papers, HR didn't give me a hard time, submitting the application online quickly. I've submitted it for approval. It should take about 2 days. Just finish your handover in the meantime. I nodded. As I walked out of HR's office, my colleagues shot me mocking looks. Heard Willow is resigning? 10 years with the director and she's still no match for Mabel. I bet Mabel and the director will get engaged soon. Mabel is sweet and sensible. What does Willow have? She's just an old hag past her prime. Many of them were my former protégés. Back when I was covering for their mistakes, they'd called me Madam Director, and promised to repay me. Now that the tide had turned, they were all stepping on me to curry favor with Orion and Mabel. I sneered and retorted, sorry to disappoint, but I'm not just resigning. Another hospital has offered me a high-paying position with benefits several times better than here. Ignoring their jealous green faces, I grabbed my personal belongings and walked away without looking back. As soon as I exited the hospital, Orion called me. Willow Ling, Mabel's birthday is today. While she's on leave, you'll take over her patients and research project. Before I could refuse, he'd sent me Mabel's medical research project. Nothing but a title. This wasn't the first time Orion had made me take over Mabel's work. Every time I did the work, Mabel got the credit and I took the blame if anything went wrong. At first I'd refused. Orion would call me selfish and cold, saying he'd do it himself if I wouldn't. He was already exhausted running the hospital. I didn't want to add to his stress, so I'd always given in. But in the end they didn't appreciate it. Instead they took it for granted, ordering me around without a second thought. Now that I was resigning, I wasn't going to tolerate it anymore. I refuse. Because I've already. I was about to tell him I'd resigned when Mabel's soft, delicate voice came from the other end. Orion, it's okay if Sister Willow doesn't want to. I can do it myself. Orion's voice turned gentle. Mabel, today's your birthday. You should be happy celebrating, not worrying about work. Then turning back to me, his voice turned cold again. Willow Ling, do you have any shame laughing after what you did? You upset Mabel with your little stunt in the group. This is your chance to make amends. Don't be ungrateful. I found it hilarious. For Mabel's birthday, Orion not only gave her time off but also cared deeply about her mood. But when I'd had a fever once, Orion refused to let me take leave. He'd insisted I come to work, saying if I couldn't perform surgeries I could do odd jobs, claiming moving around would help me recover faster. Instead I'd gotten worse and had to lie in bed for half a month. Hearing my laugh, Orion flew into a rage. Willow Ling, you're the one in the wrong, how dare you laugh? If you keep this up, I swear I'll brea. I knew exactly what he was going to say, threatened to break up with me as he always did when we disagreed. He knew I cared about him, that I couldn't bear to leave. But this time, before he could finish, I cut him off. Actually, I was just about to say the same thing. Let's break up. Orion's voice was laced with shock. What? You want to break up with me? Willow Ling, have you lost your mind? Immediately after, Mabel's fake concerned voice came through the line. Sister Willow, I know you're angry about the birthday photoshoot, but you can't joke about breaking up just because of that. Orion, I think I'll skip my birthday. I'll go back to finish my work right away. Please don't fight because of me. Orion cooed at Mabel gently, then snapped at me coldly. Willow Ling, it's just a photo. Are you really going to hold a grudge this long? After a pause, as if remembering something, he softened his tone, sounding rather helpless. I was wrong for standing you up before. Don't throw a tantrum. Hurry up and finish Mabel's project for her. I promise after I celebrate Mabel's birthday, I'll find time to register with you. Is that enough? Orion tried to feed me another empty promise. But I'd long grown tired of his empty words. Before I could refuse, he hung up the phone. I didn't open the project file he'd sent. In 2 days my resignation would be approved anyway. By then I'd have no connection left with him or the hospital. And it was finally time to plan for my own future. With that thought I called my best friend, telling her I'd resign in 2 days and accept the job at her family's hospital. She'd been trying to poach me there for a long time, offering benefits 3 times better than my current ones. But back then Orion's hospital had just been founded and was short-staffed. For his sake I'd firmly declined her offer and chosen to stay by his side. Now it all seems so not worth it. If I'd gone to her hospital back then with my hard work I'd be the vice president by now, not just an ordinary doctor. My friend was relieved I'd come around, vowing the hospital's doors were always open for me. As soon as I resigned she'd sign the employment contract with me immediately. On the first day waiting for my resignation to be finalized, I took the property deed to a real estate agency to sell the house. When I'd bought it Orion had been short on money so I'd paid for it in full, planning to use it as our wedding home. The decor was a light blue ocean theme, all according to Orion's preferences. Even though I was allergic to pollen, the backyard was filled with tulips, Orion's favorite flowers. Later I'd found out the real reason Orion loved tulips. They were Mabel's favorite. And there I was, tending to those tulips carefully every day. How ridiculous. The day I bought the house I'd planned to put it under Orion's name. But just as I was about to sign, Orion had left me high and dry to rush to Mabel's call. After thinking it over I'd put it under my own name instead. Orion, convinced I loved him more than life itself, hadn't cared much. Now I was grateful I'd left myself an out, otherwise I'd be left with nothing at all. After verifying the documents, the agent listed the house online and told me to wait for news. I agreed, heading home to pack my things to make it easier for potential buyers to view the property. As I packed I found a pair of polished red high heels in the shoe cabinet. They were the most expensive gift Orion had given me in 10 years. Even though I hated wearing high heels I hadn't wanted to disappoint him. To please him I'd worn them even when they rubbed blisters on my heels, enduring the pain. I'd cherished those shoes, treating them like a treasure. Until I accidentally saw Mabel's social media post, and realized the shoes were a second-hand pair she'd discarded. He'd given me someone else's cast-offs? Love and indifference had always been obvious. Yet I'd treated them like a precious gift. How absurd. I sneered, tossing the high heels into the trash. Besides the shoes I threw away all the wedding supplies I'd carefully prepared in the drawer. The invitations I'd written by hand one by one, the wedding candies I'd selected personally, even the diamond ring I'd polished and crafted myself. I'd always dreamed of the day Orion would put it on my finger and walk me down the aisle. Now it was clear that day would never come. Before leaving, I noticed the locked Nanmu box on Orion's bookshelf. It had always been his forbidden treasure. I'd tried our birthdays and anniversaries as the password, but none worked. When he caught me trying, he'd yelled at me for invading his privacy. Now, on a whim, I typed in a string of numbers. The lock clicked open. I forced a bitter smile. Of course it was Mabel's birthday. Inside were countless photos of Orion and Mabel, each carefully dated. From spring to winter, from blooming flowers to snow-covered landscapes, different backdrops but the same 2 people. In every photo Orion looked at Mabel with a burning, loving gaze. It was a gaze I knew well. He'd looked at me that way when we first fell in love. In the early days of our relationship, Orion had often taken me to class reunions, proudly introducing me to his friends and seizing every chance to show off our love. But since Mabel had appeared he'd spent less and less time with me, telling me to focus on work instead. He'd also refused to take photos with me, saying we were too old for such childish things. Yet behind my back he'd been living wildly with Mabel. It turned out he'd just grown tired of me. I didn't want to look anymore. Taking a deep breath I grabbed my luggage and walked away without looking back. After that I rented a small studio apartment. Once I'd settled in and was about to rest, Mabel sent me a photo of Orion's profile. Orion had too much to drink. He won't be coming home tonight. I'll take good care of him for you. Once upon a time receiving such a provocative message would have broken me, leaving me heartbroken and chain-smoking. But now I didn't care. I turned off my phone and went to sleep. For the first time in years without Orion's constant interference, I slept soundly and peacefully. On the second day of waiting my resignation was approved smoothly. As soon as it went through, I met my best friend at a cafe to sign the employment contract. Right after signing, the real estate agent texted me my house had been sold. That afternoon I showed the buyer around and signed the sales contract without a hitch. On my way back to my new apartment I heard a familiar voice. Looking up I saw Orion, Mabel and Orion's parents standing on the street taking a family photo, their smiles bright as if they were a real family. I froze in my tracks. I'd mentioned wanting to take a family photo with them before, but Orion had said there was no need for such formalities. Orion's mother had scolded me for wasting money, saying I'd been brainwashed by toxic online posts. Orion's father had even reprimanded me harshly, telling me to focus on what mattered and stop daydreaming. Faced with their strong opposition, I dropped the idea. I thought they just disliked such fancy, impractical things. I'd respected their wishes and never pushed it. Now I felt like a ridiculous clown. It wasn't that they hated formalities, they just didn't want to take a photo with me. After the photo was taken, Orion's parents nodded in satisfaction. Orion's mother was beaming, pushing Orion closer to Mabel. Mabel, you and our Orion are perfect for each other. Orion, just break up with Willow and be with Mabel already. Orion's father agreed. Yes. Mabel is young and accomplished. She's won numerous medical awards and even developed a special drug for infectious diseases. Only someone like her is worthy of marrying into the Shin family and becoming our daughter-in-law. Not like that useless Willow, she's just leeching off you. I clenched my fists tightly. Those achievements were mine. The special drug was the result of my hard work. Orion had taken them all and given them to Mabel, saying she needed the credentials to advance her career. As for leeching off him, that was a complete lie. Orion and I had founded the hospital together. I'd even given him the position of director willingly. To help him secure his role, I'd worked myself to the bone, performing surgeries, securing investments, researching new drugs. Without me, Orion would never be where he is today. Yet Orion let his parents misunderstand me, not defending me at all. He just said calmly, I've gotten used to it after all these years. We'll make do. All my sincere love for him, he'd reduced it to making do? Orion's mother looked dissatisfied, taking his hand. Orion, we're only thinking of you. Don't forget Willow is an orphan. If you marry her, people will laugh at you sooner or later. Orion bit his lip and said nothing. Tears blurred my eyes. Years ago when Orion had drowned, it was my father who jumped in to save him, sacrificing his own life in the process. My mother had cried herself sick and passed away soon after. Left orphaned, Orion's parents had promised to treat me like their own daughter. Orion had held me and cried, vowing to love me forever and stay by my side until old age. It hadn't even been that many years, and now they resented me, ashamed of my orphan status, thinking I wasn't good enough for him. Watching Orion hesitate, I sneered silently. If I'd known back then what an ungrateful wretch he was, I would have stopped my father from saving him. I didn't want to watch any longer. I turned to leave. At this moment Mabel noticed me. Ugh! Isn't that Willow-senpai? Instantly the remaining three all turned their gaze in my direction. Seeing it was me, Orion froze, a hint of panic flashing in his eyes, subconsciously drawing a distance from Mabel. Willow Ling, how are you here? Mabel said with or without intention. Yes, we can meet here, Sister Willow, we really are in sync. Don't misunderstand, I met your parents on my way back with Orion, and happened to see a family photo being taken on the way. I saw the second elders were interested, so I asked everyone to join in. Please don't take it to heart. If you're bothered, I'll leave now. I didn't even say anything and Mabel has already put me in the category of being petty. Orion grabbed her arm, glaring coldly at me. Willow Ling, have you caused enough trouble? Actually following me here on purpose. I've been with you for 10 years, and you don't even trust me this little? Also, it's work hours now. You're skipping work and according to regulations you'll be deducted 300. Remember to report it to HR. Now get back to the hospital quickly. Stop suspecting things here and finish Mabel's project and send it to me. Before he could finish, I cut him off coldly. What if I don't? It seemed he hadn't expected me to refuse. Orion's expression darkened quickly and he growled fiercely. Remember, I'm the dean, your superior. If you don't obey the order, then you can look forward to being fired. I found it quite amusing. I've been off work for half a day and he doesn't even know? How careless he is towards me. Come to your senses, Shin father and Shin mother chimed in from the side, pointing at my nose and scolding me. Orion, you're just too soft-hearted. Someone like Willow Ling who leeches off others should have been fired long ago. That's right, doing nothing all day, and yet after all this time, you haven't even matched up to a newcomer like Mabel. It's really embarrassing. Mabel Su Mingming was quite pleased with herself, but on the surface she put on a facade of concern and said, "Willow sister, it's hard to find a job these days and you're already quite old. Who would want you after breaking up with Orion brother? You and Orion brother should bow your heads and apologize. Stop being so stubborn." Shin's father and mother both praised Mabel for her kindness, and the look in their eyes toward me grew even more disdainful. Orion Shin also looked at me with dissatisfaction. "What are you standing there for? Haven't you gone back to work yet? Do you want to get fired by me?" Orion Shin is blaming me for disrupting the harmonious atmosphere of their family of four. I stared at him for a moment, then sneered and tossed the recently received resignation letter back with my hand. "Firing? There's no need for that trouble because I've already resigned." Chapter 25. After speaking, everyone turned to cast shocked glances at me. Orion stared down at the resignation letter in front of him and was taken aback. "Resignation letter? How did you get this?" Mabel immediately chimed in. "Willow, I know you're still upset about Orion brother accompanying me for my birthday yesterday, and that you're angry about me taking a family photo with Orion's family, but no matter how angry you are, you can't joke around with your own career forging a resignation letter." Orion quickly shot me a glare. "Willow Ling, you're already in your 30s, yet you still act like a child. Playing hard to get by deliberately resigning, is that interesting?" I calmly took the resignation letter and turned to the page with Orion's signature. "This isn't forged. It has your actual signature." After seeing the signature, Orion Shin's expression turned grave. "How could this be? When did I sign?" Suddenly, as if he had remembered something, he looked at me with anger in his eyes. "Willow Ling, you not only forged the resignation letter but also forged the signature? Do you know this is illegal?" Shin's father and mother also shot me disapproving glances, saying that I had character issues and was far inferior to Mabel Su. I, however, said coldly, "Shin, have you forgotten? This was the contract you signed personally 4 days ago. That day before you went out on a date with Mabel Su, I handed you a document." Orion only belatedly realized, looking displeased. "What? The one you signed for me that day was actually a resignation letter. Even if you signed it, what's the point? As long as the online approval isn't passed, you're not considered resigned. You're still considered absent. You'll have to pay the fines for these days of absence according to regulations. Now if you go back obediently, I can consider our long-standing relationship and deduct less, but otherwise I'll double the deduction." Faced with his threat, I sneered. "Is that so? But you already approved it in the morning." "Impossible. I didn't even use my phone in the morning. How could I have approved it for you?" To slap me in the face, Orion Shin immediately started digging through the approval records. But when he saw the back-end approval records clearly stating that my application had been approved, he was completely dumbfounded. "How is this possible? I definitely didn't get approved. Willow Ling, accessing my account without permission is a breach of contract and illegal. If I want to, I can sue you and make you pay." Mabel beside heard this, her face noticeably paled. Combined with Orion Shin's completely unaware expression, I instantly understood. It was Mabel who used Orion Shin's phone to approve it for me. I pointed my finger at Mabel, my voice cold. "I don't even know your password. How could I log into your account?" "You might as well ask Mabel. After all, only she knows your phone's password." 6. Orion turned his head to look at Mabel Su, finding it hard to believe. "Did you do it?" Mabel Su's eyes flickered with guilt, they quickly turned red-rimmed and she said tearfully, "You were sleeping at the time. I saw your phone light up, didn't want messages to disturb you and accidentally approved Willow's request. I was afraid you'd blame me so I didn't tell you. I'm sorry Orion, it's all my fault." It sounded like an excuse, but Orion Shin happened to believe it, gently patting Mabel Su's hand. "You're doing this for my own good, how could I blame you?" After comforting Mabel Su, Orion said in a low voice, "Willow Ling, this was just an accident, so the previous resignation doesn't count. You need to go back to work immediately, there are a bunch of surgeries waiting for you at the hospital." Before he could finish, I interrupted coldly, "Orion Shin, the resignation procedures are legal and compliant. How come they don't count? Also, I'm no longer an employee of the hospital. You have no right to command me. Orion Shin was furious, just about to say something when he was interrupted by Mabel Sue. Big Willow, how can you really quit? What will the hospital do without you? Are you just leaving it all to Orion? Orion has to carry the hospital all by himself. How hard is that? If it were me, I definitely wouldn't let my man work this hard. I would do my best to be his right-hand woman and support our little family together. As soon as I finished speaking, my father-in-law and mother-in-law immediately shot me a death glare, pointing at my nose and scolding angrily. Willow Ling, you've been eating and living off Orion all along, and now you're spending his money and you even dare to quit your job? Are you really going to rely on Orion to support you for your whole life? How did I ever agree to let you and Orion get engaged in the first place? How pathetic you are, you're not even worthy of cleaning Orion's shoes. Orion is kind to let you work in the hospital. But you not only are ungrateful, you even dare to quit and give them a hard time. Who gave you the nerve? Suddenly the area filled with onlookers pointing and whispering about me. Yet I couldn't help but want to laugh. All this time it was Orion Shin who'd been living off me. I'd never spent a penny of his money. On the contrary, he'd been spending mine. After we got together, he'd said we'd need money for our future, telling me to hand over my salary to him for safekeeping. He strictly controlled my expenses, making me record every single purchase, down to the last cent. He forbade me from spending money on myself, yet he spent mine freely, often buying gifts for Mabel with it. He thought I knew nothing, but I'd just chosen to turn a blind eye because I loved him. Now that I thought about it, I'd been such a fool. As the whispers grew louder, Orion pulled at his parents' sleeves. Mom, Dad, stop talking. Family shame shouldn't be aired in public. It sounded like he was standing up for me, but in reality he was confirming the lie that I was mooching off him. His words only fueled the onlookers' gossip. I sneered, pulling up records of my salary transfers over the years and showing them the electronic property deed. I addressed Orion's parents clearly, word by word. Excuse me, but I haven't spent a single penny of your son's money these years. On the contrary, it's your son who's been living off me. Even the house he lives in was bought entirely with my money. I lifted my gaze to Orion. Oh, and I've already sold the house. Make sure to pack your things soon. The new owner is moving in 3 days. In an instant the tide turned. The onlookers who'd supported Orion earlier now stared at him with disdain, calling him a good-for-nothing gigolo who deserved to die. Orion's face turned awkward. He quickly pulled me aside, his voice low. Couldn't we talk about this at home? Do you really have to humiliate me in front of so many people? And how dare you sell the house without telling me? It's such a big decision. I said coldly, I'm selling my own house. Why would I need to inform you? Orion's face darkened even more. Willow Ling, it's just a family photo. Are you really going to make such a big deal out of it? If you want one so badly, I'll take one with you later. Happy now? I looked at Orion like he was an idiot, sneering. Later? Orion Shin, have you forgotten? We've broken up. There is no later. 7 At my words, joy spread across Orion's parents' faces. Orion, you broke up with Willow? Why didn't you tell us this wonderful news earlier? It's for the best, now you and Mabel can be together. Yes. Having a daughter-in-law with so many medical achievements is such a credit to our family. Orion's parents grew more and more satisfied with Mabel. I wondered what their reactions would be when they found out all her achievements had been stolen from me, and that Mabel was actually incompetent. Mabel's cheeks turned pink, but she pretended to be modest. Uncle, Aunt, you're too kind. I'm not nearly as good as Orion. And even though I like Orion, it's all up to him. With the mood building, I expected Orion to seize the moment and agree to be with Mabel. But instead he frowned, his gaze fixed on me. Willow Ling, are you serious? Wasn't the breakup just a fit of anger? In any case, I don't agree to break up. I found it absurd. Whether you agree or not, we're done. Is there anything else? If not, please move, you're blocking my way. I stepped around him, ready to leave. Orion's eyes flickered and he was about to say something when his phone rang. As soon as he answered, a panicked colleague's voice came through. Director. Something's wrong at the hospital. A patient under Mabel's care suddenly went into shock. We managed to resuscitate him, but his family is causing a commotion. Please come back quickly. Orion froze, his expression grave. What did you say? After asking for details, he learned the patient had been given the wrong dosage of medication, too strong, causing the shock. Hanging up, Orion glared coldly at Mabel. Mabel, how could you make such a basic mistake? Orion's parents also criticized Mabel for being too careless. Mabel kept her head down the entire time, not saying a word. Orion sighed heavily. Forget it, now's not the time to blame anyone. Let's go to the hospital first. With that, Orion's group hailed a taxi to the hospital, dragging me along with them. As soon as we got out of the taxi, we were surrounded by the patient's family. Their eyes bloodshot with anger, they shouted, "Which one is Mabel? You quack. I'll kill you." Mabel cowered behind Orion, guilty. The family immediately turned their glare to her. "Are you the quack?" They clenched their fists, closing in. But then Orion pushed me forward, saying, "Sir, ma'am, while Mabel is the patient's attending physician, she's been on leave these past few days. Your son has been under Willow Ling's care during this time. No wonder he'd insisted on bringing me, he wanted me to take the blame for Mabel." Even though I was used to Orion's betrayal, my heart still ached sharply at being thrown under the bus again. Orion hadn't always been like this. He'd been upright and kind. Having been framed and scapegoated before, he'd hated such underhanded tactics more than anything. But now, for Mabel's sake, he'd become the very person he'd once despised. Coming back to my senses, I heard Mabel chime in, "That's right. The patient was fine before I went on leave. How could he suddenly go into shock just 2 days after Sister Willow took over? Could it be that Sister Willow deliberately gave him the wrong medication to get back at me? Sister Willow, I know you don't like me, but no matter how much you hate me, you shouldn't gamble with a patient's life out of spite." At her words, the family turned their death stares on me. "So it was you. You quack." I immediately denied it, pulling out my resignation letter. I never agreed to take over the patient. He's always been Mabel's responsibility. Besides, I resigned 2 days ago. How could I have treated your son when I'm no longer employed here? The family hesitated, nodding thoughtfully. They turned their hostile glances back to Mabel and Orion. "You lied to us?" Seeing the tide turn against them, Mabel's eyes darted and she said, "Even if I was the one in charge, I had Sister Willow review my prescription. Sister Willow must have been jealous of me, so she secretly altered the dosage. Over time, it caused the patient to go into shock." Orion nodded, defending Mabel. "Willow Ling has always bullied Mabel at the hospital. She definitely had a motive to tamper with the prescription." At Orion's signal, his colleagues echoed in agreement. "That's right. Willow Ling not only engaged in workplace bullying but is also incompetent. She often prescribes the wrong medication, using patients as guinea pigs. Once, she even left a scalpel inside a patient's abdomen during open-heart surgery. What they said was clearly what Mabel had arranged. It seems they are determined to make me take the blame." Mabel Sue also had a look of schadenfreude. She thought she had one, but she didn't know that I had a backup plan. I sneered. "I've never been the one with poor medical skills, it's Mabel Sue. As for this prescription, I've never altered it myself. Don't think you can push the blame onto me." After saying that, I took out my phone and played a recording for everyone to hear. In the recording, I clearly pointed out the errors in Mabel Sue's prescription, saying that the dosage was too high and telling her to fix it. He pays no attention at all. "You're stupid, aren't you? If I increase the dosage, I can sell more medicine and make more money at the same time. In this day and age, someone who doesn't make money is a fool. As for the lives of the patients, what does that have to do with me? If he dies, it's his bad luck. Willow Ling, I advise you to stay out of trouble, or I'll tell Orion brother that you bullied me and he'll fire you." Mabel's face turned green. "How did you get this?" I sneered and glanced at her. "After being tricked by you so many times, do you really think I have no defenses?" She didn't know that this was when she had shown me the prescription back then. I had secretly recorded it. With so many previous lessons learned, that time I kept a close eye out just in case. Now thinking back, I'm glad I secretly recorded it, otherwise I would have been speechless. After listening to the recording, the family members instantly saw the truth and glared angrily at Mabel Sue. "You beast, do you have any idea how much my child has suffered because of you? If it weren't for you mixing the wrong medicine, how would he have fainted? It's because of the fainting that he suffered permanent damage to his left leg, and he'll never be able to walk without crutches from now on. You ruined my child's life and I won't let you get away with it. I'm going to make you pay with your life." The The family member clenched their fists and swung a hard punch at Mabel, followed by several left and right slaps. In no time Mabel Sue was beaten to a pulp, looking like a pig's head. Orion couldn't stand it and pulled me aside, whispering, "Ling, Mabel is still young. She definitely can't handle this brutal beating. You're different, you're tough, so getting beaten isn't a big deal. Besides, Mabel just started her career, and her profession can't have any stains or she'll be ruined. You tell the family that the attending doctor is you? As long as you take the blame for Mabel, you can do anything you want to me." Orion's parents also agreed. "That's right, Mabel has so many medical achievements, she has a bright future. She just made a mistake for a while, she can't go to jail, otherwise it's over. Then you take the jail time for Mabel. Consider it a debt our family owes you. When you come out, we'll give you 300,000 as compensation. Truly a family, all the same oddballs. 300,000 and you think you can buy my freedom? Dream on." I sneered back. It was Mabel who messed up her medication, how can I be held responsible for her mess? Then I glanced at Orion's parents. "You keep saying Mabel Sue is talented, but do you not know? Mabel Sue's achievements are all snatched from me, she is the one who is useless." Orion stared fiercely at Mabel Sue. "Mabel, didn't you say these achievements were yours? Are you lying to us?" Mabel Sue didn't refute. "These achievements were indeed snatched from me, and the patents are in my hands. Before, because I loved Orion, I didn't make a fuss with them. But whenever I want, I can take these achievements back anytime." Amidst the anger and embarrassment, Orion spoke up to interrupt. "This point, why are you still making a fuss over these small things? Willow, Ling, are you really going to stand by and watch? If this continues, Mabel is going to be killed." I retorted coldly, "You're so kind, so in love with Mabel Sue, then why don't you take the blame for her?" Orion fell silent instantly. Reminded by me like that, Mabel Sue seemed to remember something and immediately shifted the blame to Orion. "Don't hit me, it's all Orion's fault that I did this. It was Orion who wanted to line his own pockets and make more money, so he forced me to change the prescription. It was him who harmed your son, it has nothing to do with me." Orion never expected Mabel Sue would betray him, his face filled with shock. "Mabel, I've been so good to you, why would you betray me?" Mabel sneered coldly. "You've been good to me, but wasn't that all of your own free will? Don't you really think I have feelings for you? Don't be silly, if it weren't for money and position, I wouldn't bother with you at all." From the beginning I could see that Mabel Sue was close to Orion with ulterior motives. I tried to persuade her not once, but she wouldn't listen and even thought I was jealous of Mabel Sue for deliberately spreading rumors. "So he deserves the consequences of betrayal." Orion looked at Mabel Sue furiously. "You ungrateful bitch. I've fed my heart to a dog." Two people tugged at each other and the dogs started fighting. Soon the family members joined the fray, snatching up a vase and throwing it toward Orion and Mabel Sue. The moment the vase fell, Mabel Sue immediately pulled Orion forward, shielding herself from everything. Orion's head was broken by the vase, and while Mabel Sue took the chance to escape, she was stopped by the family members and beaten with punches and kicks. I'm too lazy to stay involved and I turn to leave. Just then a faint call comes from behind Orion's voice. My steps falter. He hasn't called me like this in a long time. Remember when we first got together, he couldn't wait to be with me 24/7, calling me Willow all the time. But ever since Mabel came along, he stopped calling me Willow and started calling me Willow. Later on he even started calling me by my full name, Willow Ling. We had already drifted apart long before we realized it. I know Orion called me wanting me to go save him. In the past, even without him calling, I would have rushed forward, shielding him behind me, protecting him from the wind and rain. But this time I left without turning back. A treacherous white-eyed wolf, utterly unworthy of being saved. Not long after I left, the police arrived and that ended the farce. It is said that when the police arrived, Mabel Sue had her leg broken, while Orion had his face torn. The family member was sentenced to 6 months in prison for intentionally injuring someone, while Mabel Sue and Orion had their medical licenses revoked. Mabel Sue, who showed no regard for human life, was sentenced to 1 year in prison for illegal prescription, while Orion, for covering up the murderer, was sentenced to 3 months in prison. During Orion's imprisonment, Orion's parents came to me more than once asking for my help. I coldly refused and drove them away. After that, I went to my best friend's hospital and started a new life. The new hospital with the president's high regard, harmonious colleagues and a good work atmosphere. In less than half a month I developed a new drug and got promoted with a salary increase twice in a row. 3 months later Orion Shin was released from prison. My career was booming but he wasn't so lucky. It was said that the medical dispute caused a big stir, spreading like wildfire online. Everyone knew that Orion Shin's benevolent heart hospital was full of incompetent doctors who treated human lives as grass. So after Orion Shin came out, the hospital didn't last long and went bankrupt. He was heavily in debt. He himself became infamous, suffered cyberbullying, and Orion Shin's parents were also deeply involved. Seeing that I was getting better and better, they regretted their past actions and wanted me to get back together with Orion Shin. Orion Shin also sent me text messages more than once, confessing and asking to get back together. I was wrong. I shouldn't have believed Mabel's lies back then. Now I know you're the one who's truly been the best for me. You forgive me? Can you give me another chance? I replied coldly. Since you abandoned me for Mabel, allowed others to expose my pain, and defamed my parents, there's no chance for us anymore. I blocked them one by one. I thought that way they wouldn't bother me anymore, but unexpectedly they didn't give up. That day, just as I finished work and opened the door, I saw 3 familiar figures. It was Orion Shin and his parents. I froze. How did you get in? As soon as he saw me, Father Shin immediately greeted me with a smile and brought me slippers. Mother Shin, on the other hand, brought me tea and water with a flattering expression. Of course, I came in by having a locksmith open the lock. Willow, you're part of the family too, how come you didn't give us a key? By the way, you must be tired after working so hard all day? Come sit down, have some water and rest. Orion is making the food, it'll be ready soon. While I was talking, Orion had already finished the last dish. He brought the steaming hot dish to the table. When he saw me, his eyes brightened a bit. Willow, you're back. Look, I made all these dishes especially for you. Come, try them. In the blink of an eye, Orion Shin had pulled me to the dining table and picked up a piece of squid, offering it to my mouth. I turned my head to avoid it. Shin's parents forced smiles. Willow, after thinking about it, we still think you're the most suitable for Orion. We weren't very nice in our previous conversation, so please bear with us. Yes, we're all family, how can there be old grudges? Let's leave the past behind. Haven't you always wanted to marry Orion? Go get your marriage license tomorrow and have the wedding this month. Orion Shin also held my hand, pleading with a desperate look. Willow, I was deceived by Mabel before, I was also a victim. Forgive me, can we get back together? I sneered and turned to dump the things on the table into the trash bin. You don't get a chance anymore. Seeing this, Orion's eyes reddened on the spot, his tone aggrieved. Willow, this is what I worked hard on all morning. How can you trample on my feelings like this? I sneered. Prepared especially for me? You don't know I'm allergic to seafood. Are you doing all this to make me die from an allergic reaction? After I challenged him like that, Orion was stunned on the spot, looking at me helplessly with his hands and feet. Shin's father and mother coldly glanced at Orion Shin and scolded him softly. You useless waste who can't achieve anything but only cause trouble. How can you not even know what your fiancé likes after living together for so many years? How can you play the love card or win her back like this? Orion Shin looked quite embarrassed and awkwardly looked at me with his eyes. Willow, I didn't mean to, what do you want to eat? I'll go buy the ingredients right now and make it for you. He was about to leave, but I stopped him, saying coldly, don't bother, give up. I will never get back together with you. Orion's eyes were even more red and he whispered, Willow, I know I was wrong. Serving time in prison has been my punishment. Why can't you forgive me, give me a chance? I remained unmoved, saying word by word, Orion Shin, you know you're wrong, you're just afraid of losing me, no one will bear the consequences for you. You insist on getting back together with me, it's just so I can help you share the debt. I don't want to be a fool this time, nor do I want to clean up your mess. You'll have to bear the consequences of your own actions. After saying that, I kicked them out of the house. Willow. Orion Shin still wanted to say something, but I cut him off coldly. Is there anything else? If not, please leave or I'll report you for breaking and entering. Seeing that I was serious, they could only leave in a hurry. After that day, it was said that the creditor came to collect the debt, and the Shin family, including Orion Shin, could not sleep at night, living in extreme hardship every day. Out of anger, Shin's father and mother cut off ties with Orion Shin, leaving him to fend for himself. Orion Shin couldn't find a job and was forced to live on the streets, begging along the way, living a miserable life. Meanwhile, I was promoted to the position of deputy dean shortly after, with a bright future ahead. I next saw Orion Shin a year later. At that time, he and Mabel Sue were brought to the hospital by the police, covered in blood and injuries for emergency treatment. It's said that today happens to be the day Mabel Sue is released from prison. As soon as Mabel Sue got out, she didn't even get to breathe the fresh air for a few moments before Orion Shin, who was waiting at the door like a hunter waiting for prey, caught up with her. In these years, Orion Shin's life hasn't gone well, and he blamed everything on Mabel Sue. Before Mabel Sue could even react, he drew his knife and stabbed her to death. He himself was also hopeless and he took his own life on the spot. When she arrived, Mabel had already lost her breath, but Orion Shin was still salvageable. Although I didn't want to see him, I couldn't turn a blind eye to someone in need, so I still performed the surgery and managed to save him. After waking up, seeing it was me, Orion Shin's eyes immediately welled up, filled with deep regret. I'm sorry. This time. I really regret it. Can I have another chance, please? This time I will love you properly. I interrupted coldly. Patient, please show some respect. Facing my indifference, Orion's voice choked with emotion. Willow, I know you have me in your heart, otherwise you wouldn't have saved me. I barely saved my own life. Let's not miss each other anymore, okay? My voice grew colder. Orion Shin, I saved you only because you were sick. There's nothing else. Besides, I'm already engaged. Looking closely at the ring on my hand, Orion was shocked and shook his head frantically. No, I don't believe it. This diamond ring must be what you bought to deceive me. Willow, don't argue with me. The next second my fiancé came to find me. He is my best friend's older brother and we met by chance then started dating. My best friend's older brother held my hand and said playfully, let's go home for dinner tonight? My family really misses you. I affectionately poked his nose. Alright, you go wait for me outside first. After he walked away, Orion Shin asked with red-rimmed eyes, Willow, who is he? Your fiancé? Yes. Faced with my affirmative answer, Orion Shin finally realized he had completely lost me, his hand falling powerlessly as he hid his face and cried in pain. I left without turning back. Not long after, Orion couldn't stand the stimulation and lost his mind. When the news of his madness came, I was holding a wedding with my best friend's brother. 2 years later, I took over the hospital, became the president, and had a pair of twins with my husband. Thus, I have a home and people who love me. The rest of my life, it is all beautiful. The story is complete.